Welcome back to Grow Your Own Vegetables, where a community of trusted teaching partners helps you grow real food in any space, in every season. Have you ever planted your garden in spring, harvested in summer, then watched your beds sit empty for months? Most gardeners only plant once a year. The truth is, the same patch of soil can give you 3 or 4 harvests in a single season when you know just a few small things to do differently. What you're about to watch is a live talk given at one of our past Grow Your Own Vegetables events, recorded for gardeners just like you. Today's teacher is Melissa K Norris, a 5th-generation homesteader who teaches gardeners how to grow more food year after year on the same piece of land. Today, Melissa is sharing her complete system for succession planting and intercropping, the 2 simple methods that triple your harvest from the same beds. Pour yourself some tea. Let's spend a few minutes together. For more information, free resources, and gentle guidance, you can find us at growyourownvegetables.org. And to grow alongside other gardeners just like you, join our free community at gyov.org. Settle in. You're going to enjoy this.
Welcome to this presentation where I'm going to be sharing with you ways to use succession and interplanting in order to grow more food, get multiple crops, and have more fresh eating food. And it also helps if you are a preserver to stagger as that harvest comes on, so that you're not trying to preserve all of this food at one time, because that can get really overwhelming. So I like to use succession planting and intercropping so that I can grow multiple things, usually get at least 3 to 4 harvests of a crop off of the same amount or same spot of land within a year. So typically that's a spring, summer, and fall, and sometimes winter harvest. So I'm really excited to share this lesson with you and this information. So with succession planting, one of the first things that you need to know is your first and last average frost date. So pretty much all of our planting times for your different crops revolve around these 2 dates. So it identifies in the springtime when you can put your cool weather crops in, when you'll be seed starting, when you'll be direct sowing, and then it also matters on the fall because you know when those warm weather crops that are susceptible to frost will be cut off. But it also tells you if you're planning on doing fall crops, which I highly recommend, it's gonna let you know when you should be doing your planting dates for those fall crops as well. So when we're doing succession planting, those dates are really important to know. Now with succession planting, you can do it with most crops, depending upon your growing season. If you're in a more northern climate and you have a shorter warm weather growing opportunity, like I do, then you probably won't be doing succession planting with a lot of your warm weather crops. So things like tomatoes and peppers and green beans and corn and your summer and winter squash. Usually you won't be doing much succession planting with those if you're in a northern climate. However, if you live in a southern climate, you usually definitely could do succession planting. You're gonna need to have at least 122 days of frost-free growing time. For some of your varieties, you need that full 120 days. So for my southern climates where you don't really get a frost or you don't have frost, and you don't get a fall frost until like November, December, and then in the springtime, you probably don't get a frost depending on where you're at. Your last one could be February or March, then you can definitely do succession planting even with your warm weather crops. So again, knowing those first and last frost dates are really important. And then it's knowing which crops are warm weather crops and which ones are cool weather crops. So to get access to this guide so that you've got all of the information there in a handy dandy PDF download, go to melissaknorris.com/succession. So I like to use succession planting with my cool weather crops more so than those warm weather ones, simply because I don't really have enough grow time. I only have enough grow time for those warm weather crops to do one. I just don't have the time before the frosts come to do the succession planting. So for the cool weather crops that I've personally found succession planting to work really well with is lettuce, radishes, beets, carrots, kale, cabbage, and then broccoli and cauliflower. I have to take a break, and I do those more as just a spring and a fall crop, and I don't do them during summer, so it's technically not a true succession planting, but it is growing 2 of those crops in the same amount of year. But I do work my succession planting with some of those other crops in with those garden spaces where they're planted, which is why I bring them up. So succession planting is simply doing staggered plantings of a crop so that then when it's come to harvest time and it's at its peak of production, that you're staggering the harvest as well. And the way that we get that is by planting it at different dates. So those cool weather crops, a lot of them can be planted when soil temperatures are 50 degrees. You're still getting some light frost or down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So you just have a longer window of growth time there. Now, the reason that I don't do succession planting of the broccoli and cauliflower especially, I should say spinach is another one that you can do succession planting with in the cooler parts of the growing season. So over in this section of the garden is where I'm going to be doing some more succession planting. So just to give you some visuals and to share what works well for us. So this front row right here, I have got daikon radish. And then behind me, I have a variety of napa cabbage. I've got some carrots going on this side. And then I've got a different variety of cabbage, and it takes longer than the napa and definitely longer than my radishes. Behind that, I've got some beets. So my plan is I know that the cabbage is going to take longer. So I have done a smaller row of carrots and radishes here that will be more for just our fresh eating. I'll be running out of the stores that I've got in the house of what I grew and preserved from last year. In fact, I don't have any radishes preserved from last year. So this will be our first go round on getting the radishes and the carrots. And I know that this cabbage is going to take longer for me to get a harvest on it than the radishes and even the carrots for the most part. So I planted this cabbage behind me, and then when that cabbage is ready to come out, I'll still have enough time in order to plant a shorter growing crop of radishes, or I can also get some carrots in, and beets. They don't tend to take as long for me, especially if you pick varieties that have a shorter to harvest date as the cabbage does. So the reason that I did that is I know I don't want a ton of carrots at once, and I don't want a ton of radishes at once, especially in the earlier part of the summer when I'll be dealing more with my cucumbers and my summer squash, and the tomatoes will be coming on. And so I am going to then replace, once this cabbage comes out and those beets, then I'll be planting some more things of carrots and more beets and some of those other areas that will then, once we start to cool down in the fall, I can leave carrots in the ground if I mulch them and just harvest them from the ground almost all year long. Now, of course, in the middle of winter, when we do get snow, when it's under the snow, I don't dig out the snow to try to get them. But once the snow melts and it thaws again, carrots have been hardy enough that I can leave them in the ground. Beets tend to rot on me. That thaw-freeze cycle doesn't work as well for beets. So I'll want to make sure that I've got enough beets planted for the end of summer crop and the beginning of fall. I will be canning the majority of my beets up, either doing pickled beets or just regular pressure canning those beets. So I like to plan some of my succession cropping that way as well, or crop rotation, putting in different crops right behind them, based upon what my preserving needs are and what I know I can leave in the ground and kind of what we're out of right now. So for those crops that are shorter growing, like I said, radishes, about 21 days you're going to start to be able to harvest radish. Lettuce, you can usually start to get some lettuce really quickly. Kale's another one, spinach. There's quite a few crops, especially if you pick the right varieties, that you'll start to get a harvest off of in a relatively short amount of growing period, and those really work the best for succession planting, I found. Or you can use those in between your intercropping, even if it's some of those longer growing crops like garlic, which is a 9-month process if you plant them in the fall, but you can still work that around with some of your other crops. So I hope this gave you a lot of great ideas for different ways that you can get more out of the same spots of land, and how you can use some of those plants to create microclimates and zones growing better for different plants, so that you have amazing, healthy food for your family almost all year long, at least for a few seasons long. Again, in that download guide, I will have listed for you too some of those crops by days to harvest, so you can look at those shorter ones, look at those longer ones, and some of our favorite varieties to help you with your succession planting.
If today's video helped, we'd love to invite you to something special. Every year, Grow Your Own Vegetables hosts the free Superfood Garden Summit, where dozens of gardening teachers share more videos just like the one you watched today, helping you grow healthier, more abundant food at home. Whether you join us live or watch the replay, grab your free ticket at the link in the description below. Thank you for spending this time with us.